up, guys? Mike Kwasnicki here again with North Star Baseball Club. We have a Chalk Talk segment here about hitting approach, right? This is something that I think is undercoached or improperly coached, and something that I think a lot of hitters, young hitters especially, don't think about when they head back to the dugout after an out, right? They oftentimes think about what happened on only the last pitch instead of what they could have done the whole way going through, and maybe even how, if you did put the ball in play and get a hit or didn't, it could have been affected in a good way or a bad way by what you were thinking or your approach, we'll call it, right? I want to start off with something that I learned when I was in the Houston Astros organization. I had a roving hitting coordinator there that I really liked, and he had a phrase that I've really, really liked, and it goes, you can hit 300 with an A-plus approach and a C-minus swing, right? And you can't hit 300 with an A-plus swing and a C-minus approach. All right, so what that obviously means is there's some people, some hitters that are called 5 o'clock hitters, right? That is deemed for batting practice. People say that for batting practice. You have a really good swing, or at the least you have a good swing when you know what's coming, a BP fastball, right? But if you apply that to a game, and you have to be able to not know what's coming, right, and have a legitimate approach, understand counts and situations, maybe you don't look like the hitter that you do at 5 o'clock when you're taking BP, launching balls over, the light towers. I think that's a really good thing to think about because it's something that is indicative of the entire game of baseball, right? It doesn't have to be perfect, overly talented, raw strength, right? This isn't necessarily football with like physical limitations to it. You can be very disciplined, right? You can have a plan and an approach, and you can still have a ton of success without having all the physical attributes that some of the biggest names in baseball have. What we're going to talk about first is essentially the core concept of it, right? Is which type of mistake are you looking to make? Now, it sounds weird. Obviously, I get that. But given the counts, and I've got a couple different counts that are obviously very different feeling, and they're not all the counts, but in each of one of these, you're going to have to ask yourself, what type of mistake am I looking to make? Okay? Is it an aggressive mistake? Is it a passive mistake, or not really a passive, but a defensive mistake? And a lot of this stuff is going to make sense once we start to get going. First and foremost, 0-0. There's not been a pitch thrown yet. If we haven't seen the pitcher yet, or we have, either way, one thing that we really want to make sure we're not doing is making our decision too late, right? We have to hit on our own terms. So if a ball is right there, 0-0, and I ask a player before his at-bat, if the ball is right there, 0-0, first pitch, do you want to swing, right? Most guys say yes, right? And if you do swing at that, but you swing at it late because you're waiting to see, I don't know if it's going to be a strike, maybe it's going to be a strike, yes, it's a good pitch to hit, and then you go, you can still get jammed, and you can still ground out or pop up, right? So the thing that got you out wasn't necessarily the pitch, right? It was what you were thinking or how ready you really were as a hitter. So that pitch can be, although charted on the zone in the exact same spot, maybe charted on this zone over here, right? A little bit different. Now, obviously, that's a drastic difference, so you can see, but if I'm a right-handed hitter and I'm making contact hard off my front leg, that means I'm ready to hit that baseball. It doesn't mean I'm overcommitted, doesn't mean I'm being over-aggressive. It means I'm anticipating something, and I get that something, and then I go, right? So a lot of people talk about what an approach is, and not a lot of people understand what you could be thinking. An easy way, right, is to think about what your pitch is, and that doesn't have to be a strike. And if you just ask young hitters this, they'll usually tie themselves in knots trying to come up with a good answer. But if you know what your pitch is, that's going to help you give you clear lines, right, and borders of what you should be swinging at. Here's a really easy example, right? Again, right-handed hitter. I'll use myself as a right-handed hitter, right? Big-time pull hitter, like the bottom half of the zone, more so than the top half, right side, and definitely inner half, okay? So in this position, this was my zone, or what people would call your go zone, or your do not disturb zone, right? If you're thinking that a ball is going to be thrown there, you're actually trying to anticipate that for sure a ball is going to be thrown there, because it's always easier to know for a fact you're going to get that pitch and then get this pitch and not swing, than to wonder which of the two you're going to get, and if it's in there, then we swing. You're too late, okay? So for me, obviously, that would have been all of these counts. 0-0, 1-1, 2-0, all these split counts. Obviously, I don't have the luxury of doing that in this one, but a really good thing that a lot of people can do right away is try and limit the amount of times they hit with 2 strikes. So if I do a good job of understanding where my zone is, and this is going to be through drills, maybe through analyzing your swing on video, you might just be a guy that's more apt to pull the ball. And I'm under the belief that if you can hit a fastball and an off-speed pitch, it's okay if you're a pull-dominant hitter. So if you do a good job of that, the next thing is just understanding these clear borders, right? Here's a weird analogy, but what I like to say is ping pong, okay? If you're playing ping pong with your buddies and you get a ball back to you, you don't wait to see if it hits on the table before you get ready to hit it back or return it, right? As soon as it makes contact with the paddle, the other guy's paddle, you're anticipating that you have to make a move. You have to make a move, and you're watching, or even because you know where the table is after a certain amount of time, you're feeling if that ball is going to hit the table or not. Obviously, if it's not going to, you don't want to offer at the pitch, right? Attempt to hit the ball back, because you get a point for that if it drops and doesn't hit the table, right? And the decision is already made a lot of times if you felt that it's going to go into your desired spot, hit the table, and then you return it. If you're playing anybody who can play ping pong decently quick, right, you can't wait until the ball hits your side of the table before you move. So this is a really good example of what we're trying to do in our approach, okay? And now the only thing we have to understand is this can change from pitch to pitch, right? So if it's 1-2, you obviously don't have that luxury, okay? You have to move all the way around, right? And any hitters that are watching and not pitchers understand why I went outside the actual zone because of pitches that can be called. You don't want to end an at-bat on this pitch by taking it and leave it up to the umpire. Now you have to play a little bit more defensive. Now we're covering the whole zone. In theory, you're less ready and you need more information. That's why people say, let the ball travel with 2 strikes most of the time, okay? So one of the big things that I wanted to get across is to start people thinking about, and we'll elaborate this in other videos, but start to think about what the difference is between no strike, 1 strike, and 2 strikes, and what you can do to prepare to actually use your at-bat, right? The worst feeling in the world, you only get like 4 of them a game. Worst feeling in the world is giving away an at-bat, right? Hitting on the pitcher's terms and then getting out on the first pitch and knowing you have to wait 8 guys before you get another chance, okay? So pay attention to that, look for more videos like this, and we'll start to dive into the weeds a little bit more about how to even more specifically get an approach that fits your swing and fits your hitting type, aggressive, passive, or whatever it may be. Okay, let us know what you think. Leave some comments in the comment section below, and don't forget to like and subscribe, boys.